The ancient temple hall was a cavern of impossible scale. Silence reigned, a heavy blanket broken only by the deep, resonant hum of energy. It was a sound felt in the bones, a vibration that emanated from colossal stone pillars that scraped the vaulted, starless ceiling. Runes carved eons ago were etched deep into the stone. Golden light pulsed within them, a faint yet steady rhythm like the heartbeat of a sleeping titan. This light breathed life into the ancient script. It illuminated the very air. Jade statues of the sect's founding ancestors stood like silent, mountain-sized guardians. Their stone eyes, polished by millennia, seemed to follow Lin Wei's every move. A sterile, celestial wind whispered secrets only the Tao could comprehend. It murmured just beyond the edge of hearing, a promise of immense power. Lin Wei stood before an ethereal projection. His fingers hovered, not quite touching the shimmering light. Ghostly blue-white lines glowed sharply in the air. They traced the energy channels of a human body, a silhouette of his own form. The 9 meridian veins, pathways to power. "The spirit root is but a seed, young one," a holographic elder's voice echoed, ancient and calm. "Its strength bounds the chi you may harness. It is your gate to the heavens, or your cage." Lin Wei nodded, his gaze unwavering. His jaw was set, a line of pure iron resolve. "But you must not despair," the elder's specter continued, its form shimmering. "Even the weakest root may be tempered. An unyielding external foundation can forge a vessel capable of holding an ocean." Lin Wei's voice was low, yet it carried through the cavernous hall. "I will train the Tao of body and chi in tandem. My root may be frail, but my resolve is steel." As if in response, a faint pulse rippled beneath his fingertips. It was the flow of simulated chi, a phantom current mirroring the energy surging through the holographic 9 meridian veins. His muscles tensed involuntarily. Every fiber of his being reacted to the chi's phantom guidance. It felt primal, a warrior's muscle memory awakening before birth. The chamber's ceiling shimmered, the darkness dissolving into a swirling mist of countless intersecting lights. This was the 100 paths of chi, an endless shifting maze of potential energy. Lin Wei took a single, deliberate step forward. He began to trace the invisible pathways, a ritual of pure focus. Each step was a promise hammered into the stone floor. Each breath was the first beat on his long, arduous journey inward. Dawn broke. It spilled over the jagged peaks surrounding the sect, casting long shadows across the sacred grove. Silver mist, thick with spiritual essence, drifted between ancient Tao trees whose branches clawed at the sky. The trunks, wider than houses, were inscribed with yin-yang alchemical symbols. They pulsed with a soft spiritual resonance that harmonized with the world itself. The air was thick with fragrant pollen that sharpened perception, a crystalline dust that cleansed the mind with every inhalation. Lin Wei sat cross-legged. He was a statue of flesh and bone beneath a gnarled 10,000-year-old branch. His breath was a steady tide, in, then out. His eyes were closed. His mind was a placid lake. He focused on the breath, the flow, the nascent stirrings of the Tao within himself. "Qi is not mere energy," he whispered to the mist, his voice barely a sound. "I must be as the river, flowing without obstruction, unbroken by rock or dam." A sneer shattered the serenity. It was a discordant note, a clang of rusted metal in a hall of perfect bells. "Ha!" The voice was sharp, arrogant, and dripping with contempt from the grove's edge. "The riverbed has already cracked for you, Lin Wei. Your spirit root doomed you from birth." Lin Wei's eyes opened. The placid lake of his mind was gone. In its place was a shard of glacial ice. "Trembling is the body awakening," he said,
his voice level and cold. "It is not weakness." The rival disciple's taunts faltered. A flicker of doubt crossed his face. Lin Wei inhaled, a deep, slow pull. Around his hands, faint motes of qi sparked into existence, like fireflies in the mist. These tiny pulses of light danced in perfect sync with his heartbeat. A tremor ran through his body. Muscles near his lower abdomen and wrists twitched, a painful, spasming dance. External cultivation strained his mortal frame anew. Suddenly, a sharp jolt crackled in his wrist meridian. It felt like a needle of white-hot fire lancing through his channel.
He gritted his teeth, the sound of faint crack in the morning air. He mastered the pain with breath control. Pain was the hammer. He would be the steel. Stone statues of past champions, each 100 feet tall, towered over the training arena. Their carved faces were impassive, judging all who entered. Wind, sharp and cold, roared through the narrow mountain passes, a constant battle cry. Rival disciples gathered, their robes snapping in the gale. They were here for a spectacle. Lin Wei faced his rival, a senior disciple named Zhao Fang. Scorching fire qi radiated from Zhao Fang in visible waves, distorting the air around him. Flashes of crimson flame flickered from his open palm, hungry and violent. "Your weak root condemns you," Zhao Fang mocked, his voice a whip. "You are a sapling in a storm." Lin Wei's gaze was like a mountain, unmoving. His voice was firm, solid as bedrock. "Saplings grow. With time, they become the mountain. Your flame may burn bright, but it will be extinguished by my enduring earth." A hush fell over the spectators. The wind itself seemed to hold its breath. Zhao Feng's confidence wavered, his arrogance momentarily thrown by the sheer gravity of those words. Anger replaced doubt. With a roar, flames whipped towards Lin Wei. Bang! The fiery lash struck the stone floor, not Lin Wei. Rock shattered, exploding into molten shards that hissed through the air. Lin Wei dodged. The movement was clumsy, lacking the grace of a true cultivator, but it was filled with grim determination. Pain lanced through his muscles. His bones groaned under the sudden strain. He landed and responded with a low stomp. Earth qi, his own weak, nascent energy, surged downward. It was not a brilliant flash, but a subtle, deep quake. A tremor, visible as a spiderweb of cracks, erupted on the arena floor beneath his rival's feet. Zhao Feng staggered, his stance broken. The unexpected counter, a physical force born of the earth, unsettled his fiery assault. Lin Wei's hand clenched, the muscles in his forearm bulged like knotted ropes beneath his skin. The iron body palm. He struck. The blow landed on Zhao Feng's shimmering qi shield. It was a dull thud, a rock striking a fortress wall. It barely dented the fiery barrier, but a ripple of shock spread across the shield, and a flicker of surprise crossed Zhao Feng's face. The milestone was not in the damage, it was in the fact that his physical frame, his hardening vessel, could make a superior qi cultivator even notice. Lin Wei returned to the sect's meditation sanctuary. Glowing veins of spiritual jade glittered on the polished floor, forming a vast concentric circle. Soft, ancient chanting vibrated through the chamber, a sound designed to calm the mind and amplify the flow of qi. He settled into the very center of the circle. It was time. The small circulation method began. He summoned his qi, a trickle at first, then a stream. He commanded it to flow through all 9 meridians to complete a full circuit. His breath hitched. The first gate was agony. Muscles spasmed violently, threatening to tear from the bone. Sweat poured from his brow, stinging his eyes. Veins in his arms throbbed, dark lines bulging against his skin. They felt ready to burst. The pulse of qi flickered, stuttered like a dying candle. He forced it onward. It steadied, becoming a raging torrent. pressure inside his dantian mounted, a crushing weight that threatened to implode. His external body screamed in protest. Tearing muscles and aching bones whispered threats of failure, of collapse, of death. Lin Wei's teeth clenched so tight his jaw ached. "One full circuit," he gasped, his voice a raw whisper. "One step into the Tao's stream." A voice echoed in the depths of his mind, the master's specter, cold, remote, but tinged with approval. "Completion is but the seed. The storm to come will forge or shatter." Then it happened. A faint glowing bloom erupted beneath his skin. The network of his meridians became visible, a river system of pure light near his dantian. At the core of his being, the raging qi began to condense. Embryonic qi crystals started to form, tiny, fragile diamonds of nascent power. Energy radiated outward, not a sound, but a force, a wave of silent thunder. Dust, undisturbed for centuries, rained down from the aged temple beams. The entire sanctuary trembled. His body collapsed. It hit the jade floor, rigid and spent. Pain throbbed in every cell, a symphony of torment. But his spirit, his will, soared high above it. A single truth burned clear in his mind. This was only the beginning. The Tao was a vast, merciless ocean. Its trials were unyielding, but Lin Wei would forge his path. He would carve it from the bedrock of the world. Steel resolve had tempered weak earth, and the Epoch of Ascendance was about to begin.